A heavy toll on Gaza overnight. We have a live assessment on the damage. And infrastructure seems to be the main target as the power station burns after a morning attack. You're watching Al Jazeera live from our headquarters in Doha. I'm Darine Aboubeida. Also coming up, investigators attempt to access the MH17 crash site in Ukraine as the EU gets ready to impose new sanctions on Russia. And flying over conflict zones, the airline industry looks for ways to reduce the risk. Hello. All night long and into this morning, Israel kept the promise it made on Monday, pummeling the Gaza Strip with missiles and shells. Well, Israeli forces have hit an oil depot at the Gaza power station. The station has been hit before several days ago. An attack wiped out the electricity supply to most of Gaza. Well, the Israeli army targeted 3 primary buildings in Gaza City on Monday night. The Finance Ministry building on Omar al-Mukhtar Street. And next on the list was the Al-Aqsa TV building, which was also hit, as well as the house of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh. But he wasn't home at the time. Nicole Johnston is near the Gaza port, joining us from there to tell us what exactly happened at the power station. Nicole, if it's the only power station that had been supplying electricity to Gaza up until now.
That's right. Yes, it's Gaza's main power station. It's vitally important to Gaza in trying to provide electricity to the power to Gaza. Gaza does get some electricity from Israel as well, but in the early days of the fighting, Israel cut 6 or 7 of these electricity lines into the eastern part of Gaza. Now, the information we're getting is that the power station was hit by tank shelling and that a large bowser was hit, as well as a pump. And this pump, we're told, is one of the most important things in the power station. It pumps fuel to the generators to get the generators working. So we're being told by the manager of Gaza's Electricity Commission that it could take 12 months to get this up and running again. When we spoke with him a few days ago, he said he didn't believe that Israel was deliberately targeting the power station. That's what he'd been told by Israeli authorities, that previous hits had been an accident, had been a mistake. And when we were last at the power station, there was tank shelling all around that area. It was coming in from the east on the main road, the Salahuddin Street, and there was sort of constantly the sound of tank shelling. People who were working there were working under terrible conditions. It was completely knocked out. They then got it up and running again to about 25% capacity. Now it's been knocked out again, and they've got no idea what they can do in the short term, at least, to get it running again.
Nicole, Gaza City itself was hit extremely hard on Monday night, the heaviest to date, we understand. How are the people coping there? What is the assessment of the damage? And do you have a death toll, an updated death toll?
The latest death toll that we have since midnight is that 35 people have been killed, 8 of them children, in all different parts of Gaza, in some of the refugee camps, such as Barij, Maghazi, Jabalia, and in the southern part of Gaza, Rafah and Khan Yunis. And it was a very difficult night in the central part of Gaza City. I mean, we've had heavy, hard nights before, such as Shajaiya, but that's on the eastern outskirts. This is the first time it's been so heavy right here in downtown Gaza, and some of the targets that were hit, such as the Al-Aqsa television station, a couple of their headquarters were hit. These are right in the middle of town. We also had the port hit. A large building that the fishermen use there was hit by 3 missiles just before day broke, and they came in and really rocked this sort of western edge of Gaza, the beachside hotels. So it was a very difficult night, and I think a lot of people were shocked by the intensity of it. Having said that, the statement from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu overnight had been that there would be difficult days ahead, and it certainly wasn't over in Gaza.
And just tell us, Nicole, what the response from Hamas and Palestinian factions has been into Israel. And also, I need to ask you about this buffer zone with 40% of Gaza, or more than 40% of Gaza declared a buffer zone. When Palestinians are told to leave their areas, where do they go?
Well, to answer your first question, we haven't had a formal response from the Palestinian factions about the overnight attack. We know that they ended their 24-hour ceasefire at 2 p.m. on Monday. Having said that, the Palestinian leaders from some of the groups such as Hamas, Fatah and Islamic Jihad, senior leaders, are meeting in Cairo today to discuss ceasefire options. And this is quite a development. We haven't had a sort of meeting that it's involved the leaders of groups such as Islamic Jihad to this level before in Cairo. So it will be interesting to see what comes out of that. On your second question about the buffer zone, there is always a Israeli-imposed buffer zone inside Gaza, and this is one of the big issues that Palestinians have with Israel. It's Palestinian land, but it's controlled by Israel. Farmers can't get to it. People can't work in it. Now with this combat operation sort of moving deeper and deeper into Gaza, the United Nations has said that more than 40% of Gaza is a no-go zone. So when you look at the area of Gaza that you can't go into, it's a 3-kilometre sort of swathe around the Israeli border area of Gaza. And when Gaza in some places is only sort of 4 to 12 kilometres wide, it doesn't leave people with much of an area left to go to. And as we heard overnight, even the central and the western part of the Gaza Strip, where we are right now, is being attacked by shelling from the coast and airstrikes.
All right, Nicole, thank you. Nicole Johnston reporting for us from Gaza. Well, let's take a look at the toll that this conflict has taken on the Palestinians and the Israelis. 1,110 Palestinians, mostly civilians, have been killed since the latest round of hostilities began 3 weeks ago, and 6,550 have been wounded, while 53 Israeli soldiers and 3 civilians, including a Thai national, have been killed during this time. 180,000 Palestinians have been displaced. So the Israeli Prime Minister says the army will continue to fight Hamas.
We must be prepared for a prolonged military operation in Gaza. We will continue to act strongly and with responsibility until we complete our mission. We know there are hard days ahead of us. This is a hard and painful day. We have to have patience and be determined to continue the struggle against a murderous terror organization which aspires to destroy us.
Our diplomatic editor, James Bays, is in West Jerusalem, and I asked him why the Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, seems so determined to continue the assault on Gaza.
All of his focus is on his domestic audience, not on the international audience. When you look at what sways an Israeli Prime Minister at the time of war, they can ignore, or they do ignore, most international opinion. Of course, it's a factor, but it's not the main factor. The only international country that matters is the US, but even that's not as important as the political complexion here in Israel, a country where there are coalition governments, and public opinion here in Israel. The deaths of Israeli soldiers, the numbers are creeping up, 53 now, but that doesn't seem at this stage to have affected public opinion, which seems still to be in support of the Prime Minister and in support of his ongoing military operation.
A cousin of the Afghan president, Hamid Karzai, has been killed in a suicide car bomb attack in Kandahar. Hashmat Karzai was also a powerful, close ally of the presidential candidate.